Welcome in. You are listening to another episode of the Keep the Change podcast. Up, down,
Spending
up,
all of my money.
That is of course, the theme song in the Reserve Bank office this week.
Yeah.
As they deliver the bad news to the people of New Zealand and then head down to Cuba Street, I think it might be, in Wellington there. Courtney Place.
Is that where you bumped into him having a beer?
No. Actually, I did.
You've had multiple meetings with the governor of the Reserve Bank, eh?
I have.
Yeah.
Maybe we're destined to keep crossing paths. I'm going to the Mount this weekend. I might see him again.
Well, if he keeps raising the OCR, mate, the job might be open, so you might be able to take it off him.
Jeez. And then people would say, can we go down? They want us to take it down. But, mate, we've seen the 11th straight increase in the OCR this week.
Unreal, eh? I'm actually so fortunate because I had two Reserve Bank monetary policy statements last week.
Did you?
This week, yeah. I was in Melbourne for the RBA's one, and then I came home and just before I got on the plane, I watched Adrian Orr pummel the housing market a bit more.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been interesting, eh?
Are you surprised by the 0.5?
Only because everyone got it wrong again.
I'm Nate Diaz. I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
Yeah, neither really. I went back and looked at all the the emails that I've been writing previously just to my client base, and I kind of called it. I was like, all the risk is to the upside here, you know. So, I mean, I'm only sort of surprised that it was not 25 and they went 50 because everyone was saying it was going to be another 25, you know.
Yeah, all the banks, right? I wonder.
All the banks and economists, independent economists.
When they get that stuff wrong, I wonder, do they actually default into an emotional state? So then they write articles being like, oh, this is an unexpected increase because actually it's their ego that's been checked. Again, they're wrong in the public spotlight again. But realistically, if you go back and you listen to what Adrian Orr said and the Reserve Bank have said, they're like, we're going to keep jacking these and we're going to 5 point something.
100%, man. Like if you go back and watch the media scrum after the last one, he was like, when we were talking about this, 50 was on the table, and then someone was like, was a pause on the table? No. It was 25, 50, and 50 was very close. And we are not afraid to use 50 if we have to. Like if inflation problems remain sticky, we will do it. And then it's happened.
Yeah. So I don't know why everyone's so surprised, and I think people, because the last one wasn't that long ago, right? And I think there's so much going on in a short amount of time, and then everyone just then goes, oh, well, has to stop. I think there's a lot of bias from people individually, whether they're economists, banks and whatnot, with what they want to see happen.
Of course. I think I have to be careful how I say this. I think it's a bit mean to go from 2020, let's drop it to the floor, everyone go out and get debt. We need to get the economy going because we're shutting it down. So the only way we can do it is take out heaps of debt and that'll get everything flowing. And then 2 years later, it's like, oh, about that, we're just going to take it all off you and make it worse.
Yeah.
So that's where I sort of agree with people. Like, I feel like it's pretty ruthless. And it's, I mean, Adrian would know it's kind of his fault. He would probably be feeling the heat, I imagine.
It's 24 hours on from the announcement, right? And the dust has settled, but realistically, nothing's changed.
No.
You know, the bank rates didn't change. People are freaking out. Maybe people that are on a floating rate, they might get hammered. Do those rates go up straight away?
Mate, at the office, I haven't seen a single bank email me saying this is changing.
There we go.
So we might see some stuff on Tuesday after Easter, but
I went and had a look at term deposit rates, mate. I think they've come back.
Yeah, well, it's interesting the way that, it's very hard to tell within 24 hours, but if nothing's changed over the next week or so, that's pretty much the money markets saying to the Reserve Bank, we don't believe that you can keep doing this. You're going to, it's too harsh.
Yeah.
And they might force a cut out of them themselves,
so the banks will cut their own rates?
Yeah.
They'll force a cut out of the Reserve Bank, like there's enough pressure that they'll just roll over, is what you're saying?
Yeah, they might force the Reserve Bank to cut eventually if, if the bond market and things like that aren't playing ball, then yeah, it's hard to say. We won't know for another week or so to get it right. But yeah, man, it's real interesting. Like, it's just been relentless.
It has 11 back to back. This is the highest OCR we've had since 2008 from memory.
Yeah, I mean, man, like, term deposits and PI fund returns look dreamy though, eh?
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty crazy. I saw you've got some money in a PI fund?
Yeah, I do.
And you got a little return, eh?
I did. I've got them rolling over month to month, but that one's not a bank PI fund, but it's out there. The money's out there, supporting the economy, floating around and getting a return on it. So helping subsidise my rent, mate.
Yeah.
It's a fixed cost for me.
Yeah, and that probably, I don't even know if those kind of returns were available in 2020.
Well, no, because
the debt, you could just people could go and get debt from the bank at like so cheap.
3%, 2%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or even, the data is out. There's never been more money in term deposits. So people are moving their money into term deposits.
Flight to safety.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is good. Because that's what the Reserve Bank's trying to force us to do.
Lock your money up, don't spend it, will decrease inflation.
Yeah. Stop taking trips to the Formula One in Melbourne, you idiots.
Yeah. But people will spend. Well, I think this one's been interesting because it seems to have got quite a bit of international media coverage too, because our mates across the ditch, they didn't increase their OCR.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that got the Aussies talking about, whoa, look what they're doing over there. I saw one of my favourite economists and one of the smartest people I learnt from during the entire pandemic, Mohammed Al-Arian.
Very good macro
thinker,
Federal Reserve aficionado type guy.
Yeah.
He understands the mechanics of the monetary system very well.
And he was saying, he was just like, wow, look what they're doing in New Zealand. Check this out. And yeah, I mean, I think you made a really good comment that stuck with me a number of podcasts ago, and it's basically like, just remember that they can turn these rates around very quickly as well.
I still think they'll drop before the end of the year.
Yeah.
I think doing this increases that chance.
Yeah, they're just going to a point of basically no return.
Yeah.
Hopefully break, but don't break it too bad, and then go, right, we've got to ease out the other side.
Yeah. I don't think they'll...
Here we go.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll be able to stick the soft landing.
Yeah.
I think it could be a bit harder than they're anticipating because there's still quite a bit of lag to come through the economy. But yeah, it's... the faster they go up, the faster they can come down, mate.
Well, where I do think that it's... Maybe this is what's the right terminology? Where it could be misguided, say, is that... So one thing, right, they're basically saying we are fighting inflation.
Mm.
We are putting our stake in the ground and we are not pussyfooting around this, and they're kicking the banks to touch with their expectations. They got economists on hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and they're like, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. And they're saying we are going to fight inflation. Now, the businesses that I'm seeing, I'm working through at the moment what tax do they need to pay at installment 3 for the profit they made in the 2023 financial year. This time last year, just very, very quickly, we're telling just about 80% of clients, hey, you need to pay more tax. 2022 was a bumper for you because your tax was based on 2021.
Mm-hmm.
In 2022, we need you to pay more. This year, I'm going through tax and I'm having 2 discussions, basically. One, you probably don't even need to make your installment at payment 3. You don't need to make your payment at installment 3, sorry.
Oh, wow, really?
Yep, because you're not even going to get close to what your profit was last year.
Yeah.
Hey, you need to make this payment, but you can't. We need to find a solution. You don't have the cash to. And you're seeing it turn...
Those aren't the 2 conversations I wanted to hear about.
No, those are the ones that like stand out. That they basically weren't happening last year. It was kind of like, and some people were, I'm not going to pay my tax now voluntarily. I don't want to let go of that cash. I'm going to pay it in April next year, and I can do that, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm like, hey, you got to pay that cash, that tax. Oh, fuck, what options do I have? That money's dried up as well.
Shit, we used those options up last year.
Yeah, so like it has turned, and there was something in this statement that I can't quite find, but basically I read some data before this came out, and it was around a business survey from businesses saying that this is the first time since June 2021, the main thing that they are worried about that's going to hinder their growth and their output is demand. So the businesses are noticing demand is dropping. Now, I'll give you the tip. Businesses and business owners have a lag too, because out of our 130-ish clients, I'll be lucky if 10% of them check their profit and loss to understand what their sales are and whether they've actually been profitable, and understand has it increased because of inflation, etc., etc. So when enough of them are answering a survey going, I'm a little bit worried about the demand here, eh?
That was 6 months ago.
Yeah. We've got a lot of people going, something feels wrong, because a lot of businesses actually just operate off a feeling.
Yeah.
They operate off feeling or what's in the one bank account.
Yeah.
A lot of small businesses. So, but in the Reserve Bank's data, they were basically saying employment's too high. Businesses are, they're struggling to get all the work done. But then businesses are telling us in a survey, our demand's dropping off.
Yeah. This is I think it was in my first email of the year back at the start of January that went out to my clients. I wrote a bit of a thing up saying, with employment and the way they want to attack it, and inflation and a recession, it just feels like we're going to have an all-at-once moment.
Yeah.
Because they can't scatter these things.
No.
They can't just happen one now and then one in 6 months when that one's sort of fixed. And, it just feels like it's all going to hit at once, doesn't it? So, it's a bit, not worrying, but just be aware.
Yeah.
Just listen, because businesses, once they start feeling it, it's already been happening, which means it is happening now. And, it's going to flow through.
Everyone was freaking out for 24 hours after the announcement yesterday, and it's like, hey, remember, this is the 11th straight increase. Where was your urgency at increase number 3?
Exactly, yeah.
Were you freaking out? Like, we were doing these pods. You didn't seem to care.
Exactly.
But, people, as it's gotten...
Can I just go on a quick tangent?
Let's do it.
Why the fuck
yes.
do we want the employment number to decrease?
I know, it's bizarre. I get asked this all the time.
I don't know how to articulate why we should get people to lose their jobs.
Oh, I can kind of.
Okay.
So the reason we want them to is because they're actually in employment that's not sustainable at the moment anyway, and so they're being utilised in the economy in an area where they shouldn't actually be employed because...
The government.
Well, I don't want to. I know there's a lot of people that are into real estate here, so I'm not picking on you unfairly. It's just a good example, right? So there's too many real estate agents.
I've already seen that. Yeah, they're leaving quickly.
So we want them to basically then be redeployed to another area of the economy where they can be better utilised and the economy goes faster and it's more productive. And we don't want 64 people sitting there not selling houses but pretending they can, whatever. We're like, fucking go and do something over here. But usually there's no jobs for them to go to. But at the moment, there's been jobs for them to go to. So it's not working. The real estate agents are like, sweet, I might go sell some cars, or I might,
get a gangster bloody salary.
Yeah, I'm going to get into... And I think this is one of the fundamental things that I reckon is now broken about economics. So we'll do a pod on this at some stage, but there's never been a better time to lose your job and then in 2 years' time to look back and go, that was the best thing that ever happened to me, and actually go out there and go and rebuild your income on the global internet economy and go, I don't need to go back to real estate.
Yeah, we're going to do a solopreneur podcast and talk about all these kinds of things, because there's some gangster shit happening and some cool stories to look at, actually.
Yeah, so I don't think that the basic economic fundamentals and kind of how some of the old people think that the economy works and stuff, like, they're not necessarily, it's not like that anymore, because someone will go, you know what? Like, I was getting paid 60 grand in that role, or 70. I might have a crack over here and I'm getting paid 50 and I'm sort of doing it myself and my sales are international. There's just different things that people can be doing. But I think it is very hard for people to understand. They're like, why the fuck do we want people to lose their jobs to help fight inflation?
It's really hard to explain, man. I got asked it and I was like, I sort of blocked up, eh?
Yeah, but it's a good reminder that we don't make the rules and neither do, the Reserve Bank effectively. And because someone was saying yesterday, well, why are they going to hurt people when, people are going to become collateral damage and stuff? And it's like, but the rules of the game don't give a fuck about your feelings, unfortunately,
yeah.
which sounds brutal.
It
But-
does.
But this is just sort of how these things work. So they're like, well, we've got guidelines that we need to work to, and we're not there.
And it's like a bit of a reset because we were living on the gravy train, man.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a little bit too good in 2021.
Even
And that wasn't normal. So
I think the hard thing for people was that they thought, and we've spoken about this before, they thought they had it hard in 2020. They thought 2020 was hard, 2021. And for some people it was, right? It was a very weird time. But economically, a lot of people were told, stay at home, we got you. You got 80% of your income. Did they really need fucking 80%? Probably only needed 60. But we just picked 80. Well, who made 80 up?
Yeah, it was all done with a snap of a finger.
It was pretty evident that it was probably only really like 40% that was needed pretty quickly. But we're like, oh, well, stakes in the ground now.
Sometimes I look back and I'm like, holy shit, that time was wild.
Yeah.
Like, I think about it now and I'm like, fuck, if I could go back and change that shit, I would.
Man, I get my haircut post-lockdown. Bro, how was your lockdown, man? You all good? Like, how you coping mentally and stuff? Oh, man, had such a good time, bro. I was getting paid to play PlayStation, man.
Exactly.
I'm like, fuck, man.
Fuck.
I'm like, do you guys do Botox? Have you seen me, man? I've aged, man, because I've been on the phone the whole fucking time trying to help businesses get through this. You've been playing PlayStation, you know?
That was wild, man.
But it was just like, oh, you know, whatever. It's all good, man. There's just cash floating everywhere.
Yeah. It's, and I mean, now we're paying the price for that sort of behavior, right? And it's going to, I mean, Adrian does say it. He's like, look, we've got blunt tools. That's all we've got.
Yeah.
We're going to use them.
Yep.
There are other things that they can do over time. Like, there's an announcement coming, and I haven't read into it deeply yet. I said I would, but it sounds like they're going to dive into debt-to-income ratios, which is limiting what you can borrow for mortgages. So
we'll have to do a pod on that at some stage too.
yeah, so that looks like that's in the works and behind the scenes as well. I reckon, mate, little conspiracy theory here.
Here we go.
Yeah, they're going to drop interest rates because it's going to get too hard, and then implement the debt-to-income ratio at the same time. So all you house drug addicts that are addicted to housing can't go and borrow what you want on the low interest.
Oh, I see.
So you can borrow, and it's cheap borrowing, but you can only borrow so much. You can't go out and get like 2 million like we could in 2021.
So that it doesn't just fuel the property market
massive
again.
bubble again, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting stuff.
It's effectively price controls.
I want to read you something from the RBNZ website. Te Putea Mātua is the Māori pronunciation of the Reserve Bank of New Zealand website now, I think. But anyway, committee members agreed that the OCR needed to reach a level where the committee could be confident it would reduce actual inflation to within 1 to 3% target range over the forecast horizon. Well, it's 7.2 at the moment, Mikey.
Yeah, and we've now had that annual inflation rate of around 7% for over 1 year.
Someone asked me a very, very good question yesterday, and I thought, this is a student, this is a scholar. They said, can I just confirm, even if they get this back to 1 to 3%, does that mean that the prices are still 1 to 3% higher than they were from the year before, when they were 7.7% higher than they were the 7.5% before the 5.5%? I said, you are correct.
Yeah.
So no, prices are not going back to pre all of this inflation.
Yeah.
They will be, like you always say, prices are going to stay here.
Yeah, inflation compounds, baby, unless we have a deflationary event, not a disinflation, a deflationary event.
Yes.
So that's pretty scary. Like, I remember, I think it might have been 2021, your legend of a business partner, Phil, posted on LinkedIn about a Subway bacon.
Yeah.
Oh, bacon and Subway, how it had gone up to $3.80, inflation chat, blah, blah, blah. And I commented and I said, the craziest thing is, if inflation went tomorrow, it would stay at $3.80.
Yeah.
And they're like, the people were like, oh, what? Yeah. It's like, people have forgotten that, like, even if it goes from 7 to 6 to 5 to 4, that's still prices going up.
Yeah.
But the inflation rate is coming down.
And now every time I buy Subway, I look at the price of bacon. Cheers, Phil.
Yeah.
And I can confirm it's $3.80. It's crazy for those two shitty over fucking microwaved pieces. There was also something in here about how the Reserve Bank is saying we have other tools to combat things going wrong effectively in like very easy to understand language.
Well, look, there was a time in 2020 when the Reserve Bank opened a thing not only did they drop the OCR down to, I can't remember, was it 0.25%? Something like that. They also did a thing called the Funding for Lending program.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, which everyone's forgotten about now. It's finished. But basically, the banks could draw on that fund at super low. They're borrowing money from the Reserve Bank at super low interest rates, and then can re-lend it out with margin on top. Just beautiful.
Just like that.
So that is printing money right there.
A couple of other points. The committee discussed the extent of additional monetary tightening required to achieve its remit. Members noted the rapid pace and extent of tightening to date implies monetary policy is now contractionary. The committee agreed that the full impact of this monetary tightening is yet to be fully realised.
That's a little bit contradictory to being like, yeah, let's go 50, eh?
Yeah.
Hasn't hit yet, but we'll chuck a bit more on.
Members viewed the risks to inflation pressure from fiscal policy as skewed to the upside, particularly given the ongoing demand for government services in an environment of rising costs of provision. The economic impact of the government response to recent severe weather events will depend on the scale of damage, fiscal reprioritisation decisions, timing of activity, and how the government spending is funded.
Okay, if you guys go back and listen to our last OCR podcast, it wasn't that long ago. You'll be able to scroll down pretty quick and find it. We talked about the fact that he said it was just after the cyclone and the floods, and they stood up there and said, please try and look through the cyclone repair bills and blah, blah, blah with wage pressure and prices, because we are going to with the OCR. And me and Luke sat here and were like, so you're telling me a car dealer is going to have a whole flood of demand out of nowhere and not increase his prices? Yeah, fucking right, mate. And now, literally, from one meeting to the other, they flipped and gone like, yeah, there's going to be pressure from the cyclone. We have to raise the OCR a bit more than we thought. So, like,
legit, one of the comments or one of the sentences is the inflationary impacts and spending required on the flood and weather events is higher than we expected. So we sat here on a pod too. If you go back to the June, July, it's when everything's going to break. It's when it will hit. We're basically saying they will undercook it. They will underestimate how much it's going to cost to sort this. And here we are. We seem to live in fantasy land, eh?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
The committee also noted current monetary policy settings would continue to put downward pressure on house prices.
Yeah, cool. So all of you homeowners out there, another 10% of your net worth's gone.
Consistent with prices returning to more sustainable levels. Now, if
they're going to use that and ride that all the way down, eh?
Yeah.
Until
someone finally says, "Excuse me, what's the definition of sustainable levels?"
Yeah, exactly.
Because at this stage, no one knows.
Nah.
Yeah. The committee considered the medium-term impact that these events will have on inflation and maximum sustainable employment when setting policy. So all the same sort of standard stuff. We've got weakening global growth contributing to weaker demand for New Zealand's key commodity exports such as dairy and meat. Continued growth in New Zealand's service exports, in particular tourism, is assumed to provide some offset to this drop in export revenue. Yeah, it's just a fascinating time. I think they've just surprised everyone with the size of the increase, because everyone sort of thought, things are already getting shaky, let's go 0.25, and they just said, nah, two finger salute, we're going 0.5. But really, there's no real drama here, is there?
Nah, I think the drama was done going from 1 to 4. That's the farce and the bulk of it. In your opinion, do you reckon they've gone too far?
No, because inflation...
You're such a savage.
Yeah, I am. Or this is the guy, mate.
Yeah,
this is the guy that's going, why are they going from 0.25 to 0.5? Why don't they just jack it to 1.5? We're trying to fight inflation while we're fucking around. If anything, I think we've taken too long to get here.
I think we could find you saying go straight to 4.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what that does to the New Zealand dollar.
Just send it
to the levels of anxiety in the country.
Run it back turbo. Let's go.
Yeah, but I think as well, because I mean, what I have noticed. So keep the change Instagram's growing from middle of March just under 7,000 to 13.3 thousand as of today, April.
Instagram followers, yeah.
Yeah, Instagram followers. So this podcast, though, you're about to, I think this could be episode 100 for you maybe. I'm not sure, might have gone past 100, but there's 300-ish pods.
Yeah.
And for the bulk of it, we've been telling people that this is coming. Get ready. You know, you're on there going, I'm not joking. I take this seriously. It's coming.
You could probably find that a year ago.
Yeah. And it's, you know, and so part of me is like, oh, well, we're just a broken record by this stage, but also kind of got that swag of, well, we told you so, but we don't like, but we're not those sort of people.
No, I don't like people getting hurt financially.
No. And you know, you've got that reel where you're saying, I feel sorry for those people that are going to lose, on paper probably, their life savings, and it's going to hurt them, and they're going to have to try and come to terms of, you know, how does this happen, and how can we, you know, look through this, and how do we zoom out, and we've got to teach ourselves some new lessons, and there's actually a really good opportunity to learn. But with the increase of the Instagram followers, it's very evident with people commenting and stuff where it's like, oh, you don't listen to the podcast, or they're messaging me, and I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, there's 300 podcasts for you to learn from. I don't want to reply to these. I won't do any work.
Yeah.
And I'll end up unemployed as well. Yeah. So I'll be contributing to the unemployment rate, and Adrian will be stoked. Yeah. You know, so I'm trying to help clients and stuff, and I'm focused on that, and people are asking questions, and I'm sort of like, oh, yeah, there's so much content you can go and learn from. And I was sort of thinking about this earlier because, you know, I know that there'll be people that are really upset by these sorts of things, and it's probably not going to be people listening to this podcast, but there is so much education online now, and I didn't learn this at uni. I didn't
neither, actually.
Yeah. And so
I
people
just
could
learned
say,
it purely out of interest.
oh, well, you studied economics at school, you're an accountant, you know, you got to go to uni, you're privileged, like whatever you want to say. Basically, I'm interested in this stuff, so I've gone and dug deep and tried to figure out and plan ahead, and then I've figured out with my strengths, I like to look into the future and try and understand what's going on, and especially at a high level, so then it just naturally fills my bucket to go and do those things. For a lot of people, that would bore the shit out of them. So if it does, you've just got to go back to basics of, okay, how can I get the best rate? How can I try and increase my income? How can I try and counter the fact that we've been lied to, that inflation was transitory, you know, and what can I be doing? What do I want to learn when I get out the other side of this? Another good question for people, it's a money mail this week, is who do you want to become through a recession? And how are you going to make up for lost time on the other side of a recession?
Yeah.
It's a great thing to ponder.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to think about there, right?
Each of those probably deserves their own pod, but you know, don't just get stuck in the doom and gloom of, oh, rates, you know, how can they do this, and they want to let people lose their job, and what the hell, like, I don't want to pay this level of interest, this is ridiculous. Bring it back to what you can control. And that's why for a year I just was relentless on making content about increasing income. I knew that most people wouldn't go and do anything about it, and we're always talking about it, but we're trying to spark people's thinking. And I got a really cool message today from someone, and I'll play this to you.
What about the gangster who's doing the Uber Eats?
Oh, mate, Matthew, my man.
He's a legend.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Unfortunately, every time he turns up, I'm like, fuck, now I have to tip him.
Yeah. It's costing you a fortune.
Yeah. You know, the funniest thing is that I got upsold. Man, there's some good lessons you can learn from Uber Eats. So
smooth operation.
They try and upsell you 4 times by the time you pay. They've got a new one since you've been overseas, man. So now you order, you pick your stuff you want, and then for the next 10 minutes it starts a countdown, and it's basically like, hey, do you want something from one of these places as well? How about some dessert? No additional charge.
Pick it up on the way.
Yeah, we'll get Matthew to grab it for you.
Really?
Yeah, and so anyway, I'm like, no way, I'm not having that dessert. I'm trying to stay clean, baby. Anyway, the other day it was like, their next tactic was, hey, you're $3 away from spending enough to save $10. I'm like, oh fuck, I'll go bolt some cookies onto my Subway, don't I? Do I want any cookies? No. So they done me. So I saved $10. I'm like, boom, I am winning. And I end up with $10 worth of shit that I didn't want. And then Matthew turns up with it, and I'm like, damn it, Matthew's seen that I'm ordering Coke and cookies and stuff. And then I'm like, oh, well, I better tip Matthew $10. So I've just let go of my $10 again. But this audio basically summarizes realistically what Keep the Change is about.
Sorry to send you a voice message. I know you can't speed these ones up, but just listening to the Lotto pod has got me thinking, like, all of my colleagues and so many of my friends, when I talk about what I'm up to in my dream and my dream car and like all of the things that I'm visioning and imagine every day, every single one of them says like, oh, you'll have to win Lotto for that. And That's just why I think the information that you guys are putting out in terms of the belief and like all of that shit is so fucking important, because no one even believes that it's possible to achieve the dream life without lotto. And yeah, I just really want to like emphasize that what you're doing is so much bigger than fucking just financial literacy. It's just spreading the truth that if you believe and work, then you can achieve it. And like I'm just surprised with how many people are not there yet. And yeah, I'm just extremely grateful for your content, bro. It's sick.
Fuck.
Yeah. That's
what a gangster.
Yeah, someone gets it right. Because, you know, I know a lot of this content is actually about trying to encourage people to believe that there's a different way, or that they're a bit more in control, and to figure out, right, you know, you're probably not going to go sack the OCR back to 0.25% yourself and go be able to live in a mansion.
Yeah.
But you can, if you can figure out how to do that. You've just got to figure out what your moves are.
Yeah, that's the difficult thing, eh? Like, you know, there's extremely wealthy people around now that lived through tough economic times before. You know, they didn't have control of the economic conditions at the time when they created the latest thing, or had a new idea, or just built a really good high service model.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, I think it's a hard one to explain, but man, like, I'm such a big fan of doing basics really well. And it sounds boring, but people love to overcomplicate shit, eh?
Yeah.
And you just don't need to.
No.
You just need to pick something and do it real good, and you'll be mean.
Yes.
That's literally it.
Yeah, that's how all Olympians get to the Olympics. Very few of them compete across many of the activities.
Yeah.
They're very good at one thing, and
Yeah.
they get rewarded for. Mate, I think the next OCR OCR increase.
I'm calling it already.
I've already called it, guys. The next announcement is the 24th of March, I think. Oh, May, sorry. So we've got maybe like 6 weeks, and we're back into it again.
Yeah.
That's the next one is going to be the fucking make or break of the nation.
Do a 50, Adrian.
Oh, wow. Imagine it.
Oh, it'd be carnage.
Yeah.
Well, I think the target, he said in the previous one, was 5.5. And they'll reassess when they get there. So, yeah, I feel like between now and then, maybe not enough time's passed to pull through lower inflation data.
Yes. Well, the niggly thing about this one is that the March quarter data to confirm we're in a recession doesn't come out to around June the 10th.
After.
So 15 days later.
Yeah.
But will they already have that data, Michael?
I think
These
they
are the
will.
things we don't know.
I think the Reserve Bank knows that we're in a recession or not now.
Yeah.
I think they've got that info, or they've got, indicators or whatever to say it. I think as long as like they're not seeing negative 10 GDP, which you don't need to see because you'd feel the fuck out of that.
Yeah.
They're looking at the inflation stuff, and if they're not seeing prices come down, man, it's like if they're not seeing like massive negative GDP, and like farmers going broke because they can't make their loan repayments yet, and people are still super high employment rates, blah blah blah, and prices are still increasing, expect them to put the OCR up.
Yeah. And we get inflation data soon, I think, as well.
Yeah, I think it's in like 10 days or something. I have to check, but yeah.
Exciting time. It's
It is.
exciting
It's
time
so
to be alive, Mikey. Yeah, that's going to be... It's interesting, I saw an economist, international economist, I think, say this is the rate increase that's going to tip New Zealand into a recession.
Mm.
So, but mate, it's now the 6th of April, so we're either already in one because we've finished 2 quarters that could be negative, so then you've kind of missed that bit, or they believe that we're not in a recession and that later in the year we're going to get to a recession.
We should timestamp this, and I reckon the last inflation print of the year will be 5.7%.
5.7. Nice.
Yeah.
I think I said 5.5 on the old Lighthouse pod at the start of the year, and I think they were like, okay, dickhead.
5.7, and that will be too high.
That'll still be too high.
Yeah.
But we would have rolled over by then. Would've-
We might start. Well, maybe not.
Well, this was I going to ask you.
This might be that might be the kaboom time.
I've started writing down. There's 3 things that can happen, but I don't even know what the 3 things are. But I know I know one of them is that Adrian just keeps jacking. He's like putting the fucking jack and just we're just going to keep lifting, saying inflation's too high, and there's going to be carnage. There's going to be collateral damage, and there's going to be people losing their shit, and he's just going to be like, "Sorry, but my job's inflation."
Yeah,
and unemployment, and both of those are
wrong end of the scale right now.
Yeah, so I'm not listening to the noise and the carnage. I can't see it. All I'm tracking is 2 metrics.
It does seem like he's got blinkers on. He's on a warpath.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's one option. Number 2 is that something breaks, I guess.
Yeah.
And then they roll over, but like we're still not going to have beaten inflation by then. So then what happens? Do we just pretend, oh, actually, guys, fucking fooled you. The inflation thing's not actually that bad. Wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah. I think they're definitely going to be dropping rates before inflation is under control, me personally. I think. Yeah.
At the moment, I wonder if they're trying to get as much credibility back as they can before they change the narrative.
I think that's part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I've seen some praising the RBA for pausing yesterday or 2 days ago or whatever, the Australian Reserve Bank, and I've seen others tearing them apart.
Yeah.
Just saying like, yeah, you had no credibility and you've just, anything you did have, it's gone. Can't fight inflation to
save yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think they want that here. So, well, obviously they don't because they keep going. But yeah, man, if they do another 50, then we're getting a rate cut before the end of the year.
I just want to highlight one thing that I saw post the announcement, and it's basically like, here's what every political party thinks. And I just thought, I'm going to read this to see what each of them think. And they all think something different.
Of course. Fucking idiots.
But they're using it to attack the government.
Yeah.
To basically try and build the narrative in your head that, they've got the solution.
To Kiwis that politicians do that. Because it's telling Kiwis that they don't know that there's a difference between the Reserve Bank and the government.
Yeah. I think... Nicola Willis from National. It's a punch in the guts for Kiwis. The speed of this hike will leave many scrambling, trying to find hundreds of dollars more every fortnight just to stand still. Some will be unable to do that. Sadly, for too many Kiwis, this will be the punch that sends them off the edge into mortgage arrears, unwanted house sales, and financial distress. Labour's big spending, big taxing, anti-business approach to the economy has failed, forcing the Reserve Bank to lift interest rates, and everyday New Zealanders are paying the price. New Zealand is enduring a prolonged cost of living crisis, with inflation having persisted outside acceptable levels for nearly 2 years and expected to stay elevated for many more months to come. Now, if I was...
That's kind of true, actually.
But what I was going to say is, like, I agree. To a degree, there's a lot of truth to that, right? And then they also go on to say... We've got to put some comparison in, man, because you've got to have some comparison, don't you? New Zealand's inflation is higher than Australia, the US is, and many other countries that we like to compare ourselves. Labour's addiction to spending, restrictive immigration settings, and the huge volume of money printing and borrowing it oversaw during the COVID lockdowns has directly worsened the cost of living. National will strengthen New Zealand's economy, restoring careful fiscal management, backing productive business, and reducing the pressure on inflation and interest rates. I'm like, yo, where the fuck do I sign up? Where do I tick, man? Where do I tick the boxes? But you know that in a year's time, when National are in government, if they get into government, a year after that, we're going to be reading Labour's Christopher fucking whoever, whatever, Chris Hipkins said that National's inability to fight inflation shows that they're never actually in control of the economy. And I'll be going, well, why did I waste a year not trying to earn some extra cash or get the best interest rate or actually build some peace of mind? And I think that's a very important thing just to mention too. I just finished working with a client before you got here, mate, who one of their biggest issues in business is cash flow. Now, when they say that, usually it's they're running out of cash or they're struggling to get cash. This person, when we dig deeper, no, it's like a mental thing. They're like, I make a lot of my sales off the back of shit, I'll sell this one cheaper than I normally do because I saw this morning that in our bank account we had less money than normal. I'm like, no, we don't fluctuate our prices based on what's in the bank account. Oh, found out that this client's not going to pay, so I just got to sail across the line at a way cheaper rate just so that, maybe feel a bit better. No, that's not how we play the game.
Yeah.
and so we're putting together a model for them to be able to see what money they've got left in the bank. And they're like, that's actually mitigated a lot of my anxiety around money, because I realized we're not actually running out of money, but I'm just being conflicted by what they're seeing. So individually, if you still haven't figured out what interest rates are going to do to your household budget, take your pants down and get that virtual slap across your ass. Okay?
It's been too long now.
Yeah.
Before this 11th hike, there were 10 previous to tell you that it's been coming.
Yeah. So maybe you've only just started listening and you can put your pants back up and we won't hit your ass. But for a lot of you deserve a smack on the ass because you should have been doing something. Finally, mate, I booked some flights and stuff to go to Melbourne, of all places.
Really?
So just copy what you do, mate. Yeah,
Nice.
For Christmas time, my sister's over there. Man, it is expensive to fly there, to get back, accommodation, and like I'm sitting there going, wow, the cost of this trip, okay, after tax, I'm working out like an accountant going, that's a pretty decent chunk of income after tax to be able to pay for this.
Well, I've been in Melbourne for 8 days. Flight, accommodation, Formula One tickets, which are pretty grunty.
Yeah.
And I had to buy them. They were sold out, so I had to buy them second on the market with a premium
little margin.
Yeah. So 8 days, and then dinners, shopping, blah, blah, blah.
Shopping, yeah. What? I'd love to know what you brought shopping.
Well, I didn't buy much, but, I bought a few things. I got a nice Tommy Hilfiger jacket, mate. Like a nice, like warm sort of wind jacket.
Yeah.
Got some new Skechers.
Okay.
Yeah, I splashed, man.
Yeah, wow.
But just guess how much that 8 days cost.
Including Formula One?
Including Formula One. And
Sheesh.
okay, I'll give you a hint. The Formula One was $1,500, so that's $3,000 for two of us.
Okay, wow. Well over 5 figures by this stage. Over 10 grand for the trip?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking at about $13,723.
Pretty close. $16,500
Far out.
for 8 days.
Wow.
Fucking dear, eh?
2 G's a day.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine that Mikey, who went on 74 vacations in 2022, is probably now only going to go on 3 vacations in 2023.
Yeah, I'm not going to do many at that price.
Well, that literally...
I kind of knew it, and like I had prepared.
You work your face off, and that's how you enjoy your money, right? You got to do that. So,
but I compared it to Singapore, which I went to last year, which is all I got told about before I went is like, man, get ready for Singapore. It's so expensive.
Yeah.
Fuck no. I'll go back to Singapore in a heartbeat, man. Flights are like the same price. The accommodation was better for the same price. The Formula One race was a little bit more expensive, but the living there, no worries.
Wow. Yeah, this made me go, oh man, that's quite a lot. And also I think it's magnified by the fact that I've got a trip to America this year. I've got a trip to, I sound like I've got
welcome to the club, boy.
Yeah. I'm fucking taking as many holidays as you. I'm taking my work, and I've just got like wedding and stuff overseas. Then I'm bolting on some travel, and Taz and I are going through purchasing of the flights and accommodation stuff the other day. And she's like, oh, we'll just pay for that out of our savings. I was like, oh, you do realise we've basically depleted those, eh? She's like, oh, what?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, well, those flights and then those ones. So even me, I'm going, and statistically, I would be in the economic data saying that you and I would be the least impacted by inflation. Even I am going, far out. This is making,
man.
yeah, do I really need to go on like another trip when things are popping up? And I'm sort of going, oh, maybe I'll just pull back a little bit. Or, and I think a part of that too is when you start pricing things in, okay, I'm paying 40% tax. And when you start going, okay,
man, that's fucking disgusting.
Yeah, when you pay for these things, and I mean, like the people would probably be like, oh yeah, what a problem to have. But once you start going, shit, okay, I made that chunk of money, but I got that after paying that 40% tax. Like, fuck man, that's just gone.
I had to make $25,000 to pay for my $16,000 trip.
Yeah, more than that.
More.
You don't even know.
No.
Yeah,
it's fucking insane. Yeah, the tax is out of control.
Probably 25. So if we take off 8K plus another 10, basically 25 G's.
Yeah,
you had to make.
I had to make to go on a $16,000 trip.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, that's Stupid as shit. Eh?
But hey, you know,
Us
I'm
supporting-
sure you had a
supporting
great
the
time.
inflation rate in
And-
Australia.
And did you give Max Verstappen a wristy, is what everyone's wondering?
Nah, but we did bump into Valtteri Bottas.
Okay.
And the Chinese guy, Zhou.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just randomly.
The
we
short
don't-
guy. Is it?
Nah, that's
I don't-
Yuki.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, he's
Nah.
Japanese, isn't he?
Yeah,
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, we bumped into them down at St Kilda. They were just doing like a little PR event with Alfa Romeo, the car brand. And there was only like 5 people there.
Really? Did
Yeah,
you
so-
bowl straight in?
Nah, I left them to it.
Oh,
Yeah.
seems lazy.
Yeah. I was just like, oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. They're just F1 drivers hanging out at the beach.
Yeah. Shit, I
So,
thought
yeah.
you could have got a couple of selfies or something.
Oh, I should have probably done that, but I just didn't.
It frees up a little bit with the famous people, eh? Because I just think,
Yeah. I'm
you know-
also not a big photo taker, man.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. If there was one Formula One person just wandering around and you bumped into them, would you? Who would it be that you get a photo with?
Oh,
Surely Max.
Michael Schumacher, but not in his
Oh.
current condition.
Jesus, mate. His son's not driving anymore, right?
No, well, he's the test driver for Mercedes now.
Oh, okay.
So he'll probably get another drive at some point.
And shout out to Liam Lawson, who's a big listener of the pod. Made that up. What's he doing? Is he in Japan or
I
something?
think he's gone to Formula E, which is like
Emission free.
Tesla losers. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Good on you, Liam. Well done, mate. Hey, yeah. Hey, if you ever want to come on the pod,
Yeah.
Liam.
There's a couple of young hotshots there. I think young guy called Marcus Armstrong.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
From
there's
the
some good-
Armstrong family,
there's some
well,
good-
obviously.
yeah, there's some-
Cheers, Luke. Dickhead. This is his last name.
Yeah, he's actually directly related to the guy who got on the moon, Neil
Neil.
Armstrong. Yeah,
Lance.
Yeah.
Neil, which one? No, Lance Armstrong's a cyclist. Fuck, he was on the moon. He was on the moon, though.
he certainly
Okay.
was.
We
We
should
better stop this one. Eh?
wrap this pod up. These are things we can
And
discuss.
that kid wasn't related to Neil, so we'll get going. Eh?
Thinking, how old's Neil? Yeah. Rightio, T-Pain to take us out.